We are joining you for a special. You usually don't see us on a Friday afternoon, but we thought it was important to come to you, and no one better to take us through today's really disturbing events than April Ryan, who herself is a magnificent reporter,
Thank
the
you.
longest serving African American woman reporter in the White House briefing room. And
No, the African American period, not just
African
longest.
American period, excuse me, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. I will stand corrected at any time. Well, she is there for a reason, folks. There is no one who's a more professional, more strong-willed reporter, and we're going to talk about that and what this means. Just before we were coming on, April was saying to me, this is meant to get to all of us. And we're here, of course, to talk about the unbelievably wrong-headed, unconstitutional, tyrannical arrest of both Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, an independent
Yes.
journalist,
Yes.
and that what this represents to the freedom of the press, the freedom of our country, and why it's so significant that they would take this step. So let's wait a few more minutes for some friends, and then we'll get started. We'll catch people up as they come in.
Yeah.
But we are here to talk about Don Lemon, who has been in the news business for decades. I was very pleased to see that we had some public comments from CNN, which were very much appreciated. So why don't we get underway? As many of you may know by now, Don Lemon, who is in California for the Emmys, was arrested late last night in the hotel, grabbed by federal agents, shoved into a vehicle, spent the night in jail in Los Angeles. What is he charged with? Well, he reported on, along with Georgia Fort, the demonstration at a church in Minneapolis. And for that, he has been arrested. Nominally, the charge is interfering to conspiracy to interfere with people's rights to attend a religious service, something along those lines. But that's bullshit. April, tell us what you know and who you've spoken to already this morning and this afternoon.
Well, what I do know, that this is an affront to the First Amendment, freedom of the press, the First Amendment. And this is going to be a lot of background, guys, for you to understand why this is so important. And I'm so thankful that Jen and Norm are here to discuss this. So remember, when the founding fathers put this into place, put all these pillars into place, they put the First Amendment, freedom of the press. Freedom of press is part of the First Amendment. And what happens is if there are no checks and balances, it lands on the press for accountability, questioning as well as chronicling. What Don Lemon did a few weeks ago in that Minnesota church was to chronicle activists. What they're trying to do, what the Trump administration is trying to do, is conflate this situation, making him an activist when he was actually a journalist chronicling what the activists were doing. The activists were looking for someone that they thought was involved in ICE, who was a regional head of ICE, according to MS Now, that has not been confirmed as of yet if he was or was not one of the pastors of the church. But Don was following the activists along with Georgia Fort, okay, doing what journalists do. He did not stop the service. He was respectful when the service stopped because of the activists coming in. He politely asked questions. And now, I mean, a judge, two court officials, am I correct, Norm?
Yes.
Refused to charge Don and Georgia, and now the feds took it over. There was a grand jury with sealed documents. They had been apparently watching Don because they knew he was going to LA. Don was all over social media. And this is how it gets unscrupulous. Don was all over social media. Oh, I'm going to the Grammys. Oh, I'm going to the Grammys. I will be there. And he was like counting down on social media. They met him there and they arrested him. I got the word this morning before it went to the press, and I thought it was a hoax at first, and it wasn't. So what I did I started calling people. I called the mayor of Los Angeles. Well, I texted the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and she reached out to me. She called me right. She said, "What? What is this?" And so she, in all of her power as mayor of Los Angeles, she got to the bottom of it, found out what was going on, found out where he was, found out everything. She is incensed. She says she's using all the power that she has to make sure that Don is safe and will be released. She is going to meet him after court. I believe some of the city of some city officials may be even there to make sure it's on the up and up. She feels it's in the front. And you have to remember that the mayor of Los Angeles used to be the congressperson for Los Angeles. She used to be the head of the Congressional Black Caucus. So she has seen this, and she has been attacked by Trump as well. Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, well, we'll get to Don Lemon. This is not his first foray with the Trump administration. Trump won. They were after him. Um, it was a lot going on, but this time they want to make him to be an activist along with Georgia Fort. Georgia Fort was in her home with her children. She did what we are allowed to do, what our founding fathers put in the pillars, our national pillars, to say we can do. Georgia Fort walked in there like Don, covering it. And see the and she this morning, the Fed, DE, DEA DEA, you can see on the back of on the ring camera on the jacket. I'm like, why is a DEA agent there? Because it's a federal agent. It's not just ICE, it's not just this one, it's all federal agencies now implementing this work, right? So in the middle of the night, her family, her kids are crying, and she's like, "You're scaring me," etc. She turns herself in. All because she chronicled a story about activists going into a church, and they want to label them with obstruction of rights. They chronicled. And just a few days ago, if you look, guys, the Associated Press posted something in Minnesota where their reporters were told to get in a car. If you don't get in the car, you're going to be arrested. They were like, "Well, where was the Associated Press?" They said, "Get in the car." They don't want this to be televised. There is a revolution in Minnesota right now. When I say they, the federal government doesn't want it to be televised because there is accountability with these citizen journalism cameras and with the real journalists. And think about this. Georgia Fort, if I'm correct, she was a reporter that was in the room in the courthouse when Derek Chauvin was during the Derek Chauvin trial for George Floyd. These are tried and true journalists. So, Norm, what do you think from a legal perspective about this? I mean, because do they have a ground to stand on again? Because two courts threw it out. Now the federal government wants to charge him. What do they have to stand on with this?
Um, as Chief Judge Patrick Schlitz said when on the prior effort to charge Don, they tried to pressure him, including trying to get the Eighth Circuit to order him. And mind you, what you're about to hear, this is from a Justice Scalia clerk, from someone who is the conservative wing of the Republican Party. That's how he got the job as the chief judge of the federal district court. There is no evidence, he said, whatsoever that Don Lemon committed a crime, April and Jen. We haven't yet seen these unsealed materials, to the credit of the of our brothers and sisters in the legacy and independent media. They asked Todd Blanche a question, the deputy attorney general. He
That's
said,
right.
it hasn't been unsealed yet, but we know from what happened before and what was rejected for Don as a journalist that they're looking at two potential crimes, infringement of religious rights, because they claim Don went into a church, interfered with the church proceedings, and conspiracy to deprive civil rights for that reason. Those will not stand, and here's why. Number one, on the supposed conspiracy to interfere with civil rights, that has a very high mens rea. You have to prove that he had an intention to interfere with those worshipers. His intention was to do journalism. It's protected. It's a First Amendment constitutionally protected mens rea state of mind.
First Amendment, not second, not third, the First Amendment.
And then on the Religious Freedom Act, the burden is the courts have set that standard extremely high, and it is not met. I think that the protesters have a good argument that they did not violate the law. But a journalist, April, as you say, who is there to exercise First Amendment protected rights? He talked very respectfully after the service had ended with the pastor, with people in that room. That is not a crime. That is the bottom line. And Abby Lowell, our friend who's going to litigate this case, defending the First Amendment, exercising our journalistic rights is a core American freedom. It is not a crime to do journalism.
And Jim, before I go to you, this FACE Act is a Reconstruction era KKK act. Am I correct? It goes
They're
way
two
back.
different. It's two different ones.
Okay,
The
so
conspiracy
which one is
against you have two acts here. You have the conspiracy against civil rights. That's what we would normally use when you have a conspiracy to target when you have the Nazis or the Klan, a conspiracy to target the civil rights of Americans. Some might argue that describes the entire Trump administration. April, I was in Minneapolis, and the only people I saw attacking civil rights were the Trump administration. Then you have the Religious Rights Act, which is more recent.
It's crazy. So, Jen, the NABJ says they're outraged. What does the National Association of Black Journalists, they're working on this. As someone who has been in the news, in the press room and everything, what does this do for us as journalists? Because even though these two are Black, this it's far reaching beyond two Black journalists. This is journalism overall. Am I correct?
Yes. First of all, it is significant that these were African American journalists. It's significant for two reasons. One, they were there. Where was the legacy media? The legacy media was not there. So
Good
the
point.
importance of the African American press has always been going back to the civil rights movement. They cover what the legacy media won't. And that is one of their gifts to American democracy.
Sorry, my phone fell. My phone.
We also have there you go. We also have, of course, that this is not only aimed at African American journalists, but all journalists. Imagine even during the Bull Connor era in the civil rights, they didn't go around arresting the journalists who were covering it. They were arresting the peaceful protesters, the children, the other people. So even during the worst days of the Jim Crow South, they did not go around arresting journalists. And that is what is so heinous. They want to shut us up because this has been the worst crisis of this presidency. Now, just to take us back for a moment, you're saying, well, this got dismissed. How is it that they have arrest warrant? Very briefly, they tried to get a magistrate judge in Minnesota to issue the arrest warrant. The magistrate said, I don't see anything here. There were a group of people that, yes, you could go forward with, but there were a larger group, including Don Lemon and Georgia Ford, who said, there's nothing here. And in that letter that Norm referenced from the chief judge, a George W. Bush appointee, to the Eighth Circuit. What happened is after that arrest warrant was dismissed, the government did something unheard of. They took a writ of mandamus to the Eighth Circuit. That is completely inappropriate. If you don't get an arrest warrant, this is not something that you can seek a mandamus for. The chief judge wasn't even alerted properly, wrote this letter that Norm referenced. And he said, at worst, this is his phrase, at worst, what they did was yell in this church. You cannot arrest people for that. And then one step removed, what Don and Georgia were doing were filming this. And to give you a sense of how
Filming and interviewing,
Yes.
yes.
And to give you an idea of how high the bar is, there's a whole series of First Amendment cases, including of a group that disrupts funerals to protest. If you remember, during the Iraq War and elsewhere, the Supreme Court has held even that is protected activity. You say, but the sanctity of a service, a funeral, how can you possibly disrupt it? No, the First Amendment trumps that. That's how outrageous this is, that the protesters themselves would be arrested and that the journalists filming this. This is so far beyond what any other administration has attempted. Pam Bondi is a reckless, lawless attorney general who should never have been put in that job. And now we're seeing the ramifications of what it is to have a weaponized, lawless, rogue Justice Department.
So this isn't just journalism. This is political. This has gotten political. I mean, you have Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, who is issuing a statement saying this there's absolutely zero reason why Don should be arrested and he should be let go immediately. I mean, how political do you think this can get? Because there needs to be protections for journalism. And right now, Republicans are not going to do that. There needs to be protections. If the Associated Press can go to Minnesota and report, and then the ICE agents say, if you don't leave, I will arrest you. And they got in their car. What does that say for the vast majority of us? Because they are the gold standard. And yet now we are in this era of traditional media and independent media. What happens now? This sets a precedent, but where do we go from here? What are the protections and how can we be protected so we can inform the masses?
Well, the first thing you do is get this case thrown out is the first thing. And then you bring a action for against the government for having violated Don Lemon's First Amendment rights and Georgia Fort's. First, you defeat them, and then you have a public hue and cry. What has brought the administration to this point? An enormous explosion of public activism and outrage. And they were going to de-escalate. Well, they've just thrown fuel on the fire that they started. And there has to be a massive response from political leaders, from the press, from everyone. And this is a fundamental freedom we're talking about, the First Amendment.
And I would just add to that in terms of where we go from here, April. Independent media is going to be more important than ever, both on behalf of the Contrarian, part of the Contrarian family, including my two sisters, Jen and April. Katie Fang and I were both on the ground in Minneapolis this week. Friends, my publisher's note tomorrow will tell you more about what I saw there, including talking to civil rights movement. It was so inspiring, April. You had national civil rights leaders joining with the LULAC and NAACP members and branches in Minnesota. Derek Johnson flew in. Juan Proano flew in. We are going to have to do much more of that. And I know Jen and I were talking. One of our learnings this week was we are going to be everywhere covering the democracy movement because we can't count on legacy media. April Ryan, you better pack your bag too, lady.
Where am I going, Norm? Where are you sending me?
Wherever the fire is, that's where we're going together.
Well, let's do it. And Jen and Norm, since you guys put this together, the conversation is so hot, it's vibrating my stand and it's jumping off the stand. But listen, since you guys have put this together, Don Lemon, who used to be at CNN, who was traditional media, he's now independent media.
Yes.
This is an attack on independent media. And we have said, because we are covering the way mainstream isn't, we're telling you stories that they won't tell. It puts us in jeopardy. How do we safeguard ourselves to be able to tell the story? Because, I mean, it's real. If there has not been anything else that is real, this today is real.
We have our
Absolutely.
house. We have
Absolutely.
our in-house
And,
counsel, our
you know,
legal team. We got you.
All right.
absolutely. And we have our friend Jim Acosta, who Norm
That's
spoke
right.
with this morning, another one who left CNN.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Constitution does not recognize legacy media, independent media. It recognizes the
They didn't have the
press.
internet back then or a camera. So,
Exactly. And it is not only the press's right to report, it's the public's right to know, to be able to read about the news, to watch the news. It goes both ways. It is the right to be informed in this democracy. So the fact that independent media now has such a great burden to carry is both our privilege, our obligation, and a sad commentary on what's happened to the legacy media. Now, I want to point something out, the dog that did not bark. When the Washington Post's reporter's home was searched, her
that's right.
computer, her phone were seized. The owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, said nothing. He still has said nothing. This is the reaction you get from legacy media when their reporters are abused. No wonder this administration feels emboldened to keep going. They have to stand up. And good for CNN. Although Don Lemon no longer works for them, they are part of the legacy media. They did stand up very strongly. You have the National Press Club. Every press organization that I could think of has been speaking out because there has to be solidarity. Whether you work for
Even
the
Fox News, you're talking solidarity. Fox News has to chime in on this as well.
exactly, even they
Okay,
know.
Norm is like,
They know.
Have
And
they haven't have they issued a statement
I
yet,
haven't heard
April?
anything yet, but
Yeah.
they have journalists out there as well. They have all of these organizations that may even cover Trump and be sycophantic in a way to Trump or just completely sycophantic. They're reporters too, and this all Trump has to do is say, "I don't like this," sue you or throw you in jail. They would have to stand up as well.
right. And this is totalitarianism, folks. You think we've been exaggerating? You think we've been making this up, that we've been hysterical? That's what they keep saying. Oh, Norm, Jen, you're too excited. It's not authoritarianism. It's
I
not
was
that.
excited
It's
when it
not
was
this.
a
It's not that.
democracy.
We've been right from day one. I hate to say, and it's not slowing down. And the thing we have to do, one of the things we have to do, not only get the best lawyers like Abby Lowell, we have to work harder. We have to double down. We have to say our piece. We have to report. We have to bring the facts.
But
Someone just said,
it's
"Sure."
two sides of the coin, because these other illegal actions that have happened that make us an autocracy. Donald Trump says openly, I want to be a dictator. He's been smacked down over 200 times. So
Mhm.
accountability is coming in this case. And I think the cases are getting weaker, not stronger. He's getting more desperate.
Yes, he is very desperate because there's been so much to happen, and we still haven't dealt with Epstein, the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And we started dealing with that today. But I know Donald Trump is upset with Don Lemon. We know that for a fact. He's been upset with Don Lemon since the first term. This young lady, Georgia Fort, who is a great journalist as well, was caught up in this situation. And this is an attempt to intimidate the press. There in the Black community, there's a saying by Gil Scott Heron, the revolution will not be televised. The revolution is being televised. And that's why we are here. And also, I want to give you some Norman Jen like these little quips. Now you can see you can see their expression, but it is true.
I'm thinking of, I have a Gil Scott Heron album. I
Album.
think it's Pieces of a Dream. I was trying to think of what that's. Am I right,
Oh,
April?
yes, go get it. Go play it now. The revolution shall be televised. But I'm going to tell you, the CBC is on this. The CBC PAC is on this. Greg Meeks, the chairman of the CBC PAC, the Congressional Black Caucus PAC, said Donald Trump and his cowardly goons' attack on the free press will not go unanswered. Americans will rise to defend the Fourth Estate, and the Congressional Black Caucus will fiercely protect the Black press, a vital institution that has amplified the voices of marginalized and oppressed communities since its founding. We stand with Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, and we will defend their rights as journalists.
And that's what every politician should be saying. White, Black, Hispanic, Asian American, and Republicans. Where are they? They don't believe in the First Amendment now. Well, look what happens to their rights. We have a president who doesn't believe in the Second Amendment, doesn't believe in the Fourth Amendment. At some point, they're going to have to bestir themselves to do the right thing. And if not, we're going to throw them out, every last one of them, out of office in November.
To paraphrase Pastor Martin Niemöller, first they came for the Democrats, then they came for the journalists. Well, in the end of the day, those Republicans are going to be like Niemöller. Then they came for the Republicans, and there was no one left to defend them. Everybody has got to speak out today.
Absolutely. And April, thank you for doing this.
You're
You
welcome.
are such an important voice and such an important presence. You lead such a aura of credibility and
Thank you.
seriousness to the proceeding. We're absolutely in your debt for having brought us out today.
Thank
Really
you.
so important. So
So the
important.
next thing we have to look for, though, is Karen Bass when she walks out of the court, out of wherever Don is being held. But she did tell me he is safe because we were very concerned. So we
Yes.
just want to make it clear that Don Lemon is safe and the mayor of Los Angeles is involved. She wants to make sure. Yeah, go on, Norm.
And in this beautiful new era of independent journalism, we accidentally, April, Jenna, Norm, and all our Contrarian family, we accidentally invented a new model. We're truthful, not neutral. We cover very independently, criticize or praise based on merit alone. But all profits, we don't have any corporate masters. All profits go to support the litigation. In April, one of our best clients, none other than City of Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass, where we fought ICE. We are fighting ICE
You are
in
winning,
Los
too.
Angeles.
You are
And we
winning.
helped drive the National Guard out. So there
You
you
drove
go.
them out of there, and then they went to
We helped.
Minnesota. So now we got to fix
Well,
that.
yeah, about my no National Guard, ICE in Minnesota. We've helped confine the National Guard. And April, we're going to keep fighting to do the same thing for ICE. We won't rest until they're out.
Well, thank
Absolutely.
you guys for finding this moment as something critical to cover, because if people don't understand, this is the crumbling of democracy, the attack on the press. And something John McCain said, once you go after the press and you delegitimize the press and you walk away from the press, you become a dictatorship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And boy, we could use some independent voices from the right side of the aisle. The conservative side of the aisle, there are no John McCains left, unfortunately. But April, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to continue to follow this. We're going to have more coverage next week. Norm is going to, as he said, have his publisher's note over the weekend, and we will be here for you. And April, you'll be in touch, I know, with the latest developments. So
Always. I'll see you guys soon. These two are the best, guys. Stay with the Contrarian.
You're the
Don't
best.
forget to subscribe, because you're going to get reports like this where you won't get it anywhere else. Subscribe.
Absolutely. Thank you, April. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Be safe. Bye-bye.